guys.
Hey guys,
Welcome
coming back at ya with another video.
Yeah, we might be very unsynced in terms of like who's speaking when because we
have not done a YouTube video.
we haven't done it for a while.
For a long time now, but we're back. We're back in the game.
Indeed. So hopefully we'll be getting back with a lot more content in terms of loads of different stuff to put out for you. I know we did a post on Instagram telling you what's to come, but just so you guys know as well,
putting out some decent quality content.
So today we're doing one of our coaches chat videos. We realised that when we talk and we go out and do things, that we pretty much can talk for hours, and it's pretty decent information that we just kind of ramble on to each other, that we should probably just pick a subject and ramble on like we normally do.
We end up chatting for ages, and then afterwards we're like, oh, we really should have videoed that. Like, there's some decent content in the conversations we have, so that's pretty much what we're going to do today.
The other kind of stuff we're going to do is more myth-busting videos, kind of same stuff that we did before a little bit, but then also
some challenges.
Yeah, some exciting things is going to be some challenges.
Hell yeah. Kind of exciting / horrendous.
So that's going to be interesting. We've got a bunch of our own ideas that we're going to start doing. But it's going to be kind of like a monthly challenge that we can do. Have a little versus championship, me versus Connor, to see who comes out at the top of the end. So, spoiler alert, it'll be Connor, because if it has anything to do with cardio capacity,
it'll be me on the food challenges, the drinking challenges,
and cardio challenges.
Maybe the cardio
and
challenges.
The strength challenges. And everything.
Nothing to do with grip.
Yeah,
we'll see.
If it's about
deadlifting yourself a little bit.
If it's deadlifting or hanging off a bar, then I'll be fine.
So all the challenges are going to end up being deadlifting and hanging.
Yes, so I stand a chance. It has to be split equally, like 50-50, so I have a chance.
Right.
Don't want to be out of it. No. Anyway, today's
coach's chat.
Let's we can ramble on for a while.
Yeah, we go.
Today is going to be all about tracking, as in tracking your food intake. So not tracking like weight progress or that kind of stuff. We are literally talking about using an app like MyFitnessPal, like whatever other ones are out there.
LifeSum, I think Fitbit does it now. There's loads out there.
But tracking your food, I think mainly for weight loss, but we can touch on a little bit of like...
why it's a good method for other reasons as well.
I think we'll do it for dieting as well.
Yeah.
Like as in contest prep dieting, because that's something else that it has relevance to.
So, first of all, for anyone watching this that doesn't really know, what is tracking then? So like you said, you've got these apps, MyFitnessPal, there's LifeSum, and Fitbit. I prefer MyFitnessPal because it is like the biggest database of foods stored on there. Like pretty much every supermarket and restaurant that has their foods on there. And then you literally track, you put into this app everything you consume. So whether it's drinks, because they have calories in them, and everything you eat, you put in, and you've got to try and track as accurately as possible and weigh your foods, so you know the energy coming in. Okay, so if we're talking in terms of weight loss, nailing the energy, and you'll end up having a calorie goal depending on what you're doing. Even if you're not going to end up tracking foods, there's still calories in foods. Just because you're not tracking doesn't mean they don't matter. So by tracking, knowing what's coming in is really beneficial.
Yeah, I mean that's it. That's what it is. There's also varying degrees to which you track, so it doesn't necessarily have to be on an app. It can be written down, but obviously that requires working out how many calories are coming in from that food, which can take longer to do.
Having to write down all that stuff is a bit of a mission.
Yeah, and there are also strategies to kind of pull back how much you track. So still using the app, but do you track every macro? Because that's in the app, so you can track every macro that you're hitting and also calories, or you could just track protein and calories, or you could just track calories. In the app, but what we're going to do is kind of, I think, let's start talking about it from a general population weight loss standpoint, so not specifically contest prep yet. And when we kind of talk about tracking, I normally do it mainly about calories.
Yeah.
And then if I think the person needs to get their protein up, I'll also get them to try and track protein. So for me, the main thing is tracking calories as the number one priority.
Yeah.
And then as a secondary to that, if I feel like their protein intake isn't quite there, I'll probably just get them to try and hit a protein goal. But besides from that, I generally don't care about them hitting a set macro target. More so it's about hitting a calorie goal.
Mine's exactly the same sort of method. It's having that list of priorities and making them understand that this is the overall goal, this is the main bit, you hit this, we've hit the goal, and then if you can hit this as well, that's great. And then obviously not that macros don't matter, but if they're hitting those two, then they're probably going to be moving towards their goal, and then we can focus on the others later down the line. It doesn't mean that it doesn't matter.
It's needed.
Just,
if it's even needed.
So
the thing about tracking macros is like you've got to think about what's the overall priority, and if it is just general weight loss, then it doesn't really matter. Like protein, like a good diet, every good diet should have a high protein intake. That's a pretty standard measure. But in terms of carbs or fat, people just have preferences. Like I run way better off carbs. I know loads of people that prefer fats. So in terms of when I'm setting someone up in terms of like those different things, I kind of just let the chips fall as they do in terms of where it's at, and they'll find a balance where they prefer. Like I don't necessarily set a fat target and a carb target because it's preference at that point, and it's not like I've got a performance goal where I've got to have a certain carb intake to help performance in the gym per se. It's about trying to get the calories down any way we can. So for me, it's about getting those calories down within that one person's preferences.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So if they prefer more fats, then they can feel free to have more fats. So the one thing I would say on that is if their fat intake is really low, like below a decent guideline, like I generally say 0.6 grams times your body weight in kilos is a lower target. I think you can probably go a little bit lower than that, but that's if I'm seeing it on the MyFitnessPal, if I happen to look at it or if I'm seeing the foods there and like taking it in and it's very low in fats, like especially the essential fatty acids, then I might just say give them a little bit of a goal to try and hit with that. And it might not be even like a number related goal, maybe just like try and have this intake, like maybe try and fit in this one food group into your diet, like try and get this oily fish into your diet once a week. So I'm not necessarily directly saying
eat more
fat, hit this fat goal. Instead of eating 70 grams, I want you to hit 90 grams. It's something that just a random target that they can hit outside of that.
That's also, though, saying that about food preferences, that's one of the reasons why using tracking as a dieting method is good, because you can base your diet around your food preferences rather than people come to us quite a lot and they're like, we ask them what diets they've done in the past and they've cut out this and they've cut out that and they're focusing on having to not eat a certain type of food. then I say to, for example, one of the guys, he was having a bacon sandwich and he was like, I just can't live without the bacon sandwich, but I did this diet where he couldn't eat bacon and he couldn't eat bread, so he didn't have a bacon sandwich. I was like, well, was that realistic? Like, in a year's time, are you really not going to be eating that bacon sandwich? To have that sustainable weight loss, your diet has to be based around food preferences. Obviously, there's then higher and lower calorie foods and stuff like that. But if you don't see yourself doing that diet further down the line, then obviously it has its downfalls. But then that's not to say that we want you as a diet to track forever. There are ways in which you can like almost wean yourself off of tracking, but still be aware of the foods you're eating. And it's also quite an educating process. I feel like most of the people in the general population that we get tracking, they're like, I didn't realise that there was this many calories in this food group, or that this food was low in protein, this food was high in protein and stuff like that. That's also a shock to people actually, is how much protein they ideally should be eating.
Yeah, and how far off of that they are. Yeah. Yeah, what was I going to say? If I randomly start writing things down, it's just to come back to because I want to come back to that subject.
Your brain goes off.
Yeah, I think the big thing as well, before we get into all of the pros and cons, is to say that this isn't necessarily going to be for everyone.
No.
For sure. It's a method and it's a means to an end. But the one thing I want to comment on about the fact that you said, in terms of choosing diets where you suddenly cut out a main food group like no carbs or no fats, or you're not allowed this set food, or you're not allowed this set food. The trouble with that is when you look at dieting and you think about dieting for a long period of time and weight loss, is when you make a behavior change like that and it causes the weight loss, when you're wanting to maintain that weight loss, you've got to maintain the behaviors that cause the weight loss, or at least some of them. So if you've done a diet where you suddenly cut out and you make this huge drastic lifestyle change where you remove a food group to lose the weight, the issue becomes when you start wanting to maintain that weight, how you maintain some of those habits that cause you to lose the weight, so you maintain the weight without reverting back to your old ways and then regaining the weight suddenly. So that's where I see a pitfall in some of the other diets. Like we recommend, and we've got low carb diets, we've got other plans where you cut out food groups and they work. But the trouble is when you try and blend that in to their old habit, like to try and find that mid ground to try and maintain. And the thing about tracking is, like you said, it's flexible in the fact that you have your food preferences. So when we go to find that middle ground, we've made all these changes to lose the weight where we've reduced the calories, so you've had to play around. But then when it comes to like maintaining, you can still, it's easier to
you're not
merge back
switching
into
the foods that you're eating. It's not, I'm going from low carb to my normal diet. So yeah, that's a good point.
It's like a midpoint, and that's what I mean. You got to kind of think about how you can transition these into long term, and maybe use a low carb diet whilst tracking, or maybe you do another diet while you track, or something, or maybe you just do a random diet that removes a food group to start with to get your initial weight loss, and then you transition maybe into tracking afterwards to see how well you maintain. It's about figuring out how you can put this in. But if we go into more of the why you should, so you highlighted the good thing about the flexibility.
Yeah.
So that's a big kind of priority for me, is the fact that you fit it around your preferences. So a lot of people are like, oh, I have to track all my food, like I'm going to have so many limits on what I can have and stuff like that. It's like, no. The only real barrier, so if I'm setting up tracking with someone and I'm saying what they have to do, the only rule is don't exceed that calorie allotment by too much in one day. So try and stay within a little limit of that. Initially, just to get the hang of it, and they're obviously going to be, we'll get into food quality within tracking, I think, a little bit later. But for now, I kind of just tell them to fit it, whatever foods they want.
In that. Fits your calories.
So if they want a little bit of naughty food like chocolate and stuff, they can fit it in. There's no foods that are off the list per se.
No.
But there are going to definitely
be knock-on effects of other harder things. If they were to eat higher calorie, calorie dense foods, they're actually just consuming less, aren't they? So, in food quantity. So they're not going to be as full for long.
So if we jump into that now, in terms of, let's just jump into food quality and the calorie kind of thing. So I'll tell someone I don't care what you eat. And theoretically with tracking, John notes on down. There you go. Theoretically with tracking, you could eat pure kind of quote unquote junk food and still lose weight, so long as your calories are less and you're in a deficit. However, where that hits a big old speed bump and a bit of a roadblock is the fact that these junk foods are really calorie dense, so you don't have to eat a lot of it to get a lot of calories. So per gram of the food, there's a ton more calories in that, and then also they're super tasty, so they're so easy to eat lots of it. So you've got the fact that there's loads of calories in a smaller amount, and they're easy to eat, so it's more calories in a unit, and they're easier to eat more units of it, so it's even more calories. Plus the fact that per like unit of what you're eating, like per calorie you're eating, they do not fill you up as much as say like if you have 100 calories of veg versus 100 calories of donut, you are not going to feel as full because of the other two things. And paired with that, they're also not they're lacking a lot of like vitamins, fiber, minerals and stuff like that are going to be beneficial from side point. But all of those factors mean that if someone was to have a lot of junk food, they would feel so hungry and unsatisfied in the day that they would probably eat more stuff. So they've got to make food choices. So if someone has like half a Domino's pizza, they're probably close to their calorie allotment already, and that's just one meal in the day.
They'll be full up initially, but then they're like,
you've got the whole rest of the day still, and you're not allowed to eat or drink anything else besides stuff that has 0 like calories in it. But that's not very easy to do. So where the food quality comes in is actually trying to get enough food volume in there and foods that actually make you feel full and satiated while staying under your calories. And it's cool because as you go through the process, and you won't know how to do it straight off the bat, but you kind of learn what foods you prefer that you can start adding into your diet that you like. So meals that you like, staple meals you have, how can I pad this meal out to make me feel fuller, but I still like it? What can I do to my diet where I still like it and chop and change it? So it's more that education and teaching you how to make those changes as you go through it to fit the foods you want in there.
This is where some of the stuff works in theory, but then actually practice. In practicality, how is that's not realistic? It's not actually going to work for this person, because if they, like you said, if they have that Domino's pizza, they're going to be pulling their hair out for the rest of the day wanting to eat anything because they're not allowed any more calories. And also, I just wanted to touch on that. When we set someone a calorie goal, and if they're going over at the weekend, but during the week they're hitting their calories, then for some of the clients, so I've got two where because it's about the average for that week. So let's say they shoot well over on the weekend and then feel bad because they've gone over their calorie goal, which makes them then shoot over more because they get that sort of feeling of failing and guilt and stuff like that. But then during the week they're hitting their goal, then all we've got to do is increase their allowance at the weekend and then just lower it during the week slightly, and then that average will level out. So for example, one of my clients there, I think his average is 2,400, but I've set him at 3,000 for Saturday and Sunday, and he's loving that now, because at the weekend he was getting bombed out because he was like, I just can't stick to it at the weekend. And it's like, that's fine. That's fine that you can't stick to it at the weekend, because actually you're undershooting it during the week and you're not feeling hungry. So, and you're hitting your protein goal. So that's fine. We're going to keep calories low during the week.
Like the way you can
it's about fitting it towards your lifestyle as well.
Yeah. So the way you can kind of so if we back it up real quick, when you're trying to lose weight, and we're talking about calorie deficit, and we're talking about calories, and we said you don't necessarily have to be tracking calories, but calories still matter. The body doesn't adapt to acute changes in energy intake. So, for example, if you had if you've been in a surplus the whole week, and you have one day in a deficit, you are not going to lose weight. Likewise, if you are being in a deficit the whole week, and then you have one day where you go slightly over, we'll get on come back to that in a second. But if you go slightly over, you're still going to lose weight. It's about over time. Your body doesn't go I've got energy now, let's store a bunch of fat immediately, and you suddenly blow up because you've had 3,000 calories, and then a couple of hours after, because you've been having nothing, you suddenly shrink down to nothing, to skin and bone, and then suddenly you blow back out, and then suddenly you do nothing. Yeah, you have slight fluctuations just due to the food weight in you, but your body doesn't adapt to that. It's about over time. So what we can do is over that week, like Connor said, if someone's got a preference to the weekend where they tend to have more calories, you just bias the weekend and take it away from the weekday. If you think about some of the fasting protocols where they have 2 or 3 days completely fasted, and then the rest of the week higher calories, that's literally it. That's alterations. All they've done is
by taking out
make
2
1
days.
or 2 days literally 0, it means they can have
The
a
weekly
little bit
average
more
has changed.
that,
Yeah.
so the weekly average drops compared to where it was. So that's where it's kind of at within that. One thing I would say though is if you are doing that, still remember that on the weekend you're very much on the diet and you still have goals, because sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I've got less in the weekday because it means I get more on the weekend, I should just go nuts, and then they like just blow it, like, so you might have been doing it, let's say just 2,500 across the board from Monday to Sunday, and let's say that you chop the week down, so you basically freed up a bunch of calories for the weekend.
Yeah.
So now you've got that increased intake on the weekend. But if you then go view that as like, oh, I got tons on the weekend, and then blow it by even more, then it's like that's not working still, because that weekly average still level you out.
Yeah.
So you need to think about, have that mindset in terms of that. I'm going to pause the video real quick now, because then we'll reset just to make sure we've got time. So we'll come back in a second. John.